Alright, continuing from the last video, the reason why this base is separated by 128 blocks is because at 128 blocks, usually all mobs despawn from the player. So it's 128 blocks from the player. And normally I'm proactive when it comes to sky blocks or whatever. So I normally separate my builds by a couple of chunks. But this is the first time of making like massive complex builds or whatever because of the create mode, which I enjoy doing. That's what I really want to do more of, than small little just get by type of builds or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But it comes with downsides as well for my particular hardware that slowed down the world a lot and had a lot of issues with world interactions lagging. Even though I was able to move around the world fine, the world interactions were lagging, and essentially it's called tick lag. Um, I'm not gonna talk about game ticks and ticks and all that. I talked about it already before, but it's something that I understand. I don't have a full mastery of all the mechanics to manipulate it, but understand the mechanics behind it. And yeah, there's also in learning Redstone for so many years or whatever. It's a concept called lazy chunks and processing chunks and entity processing chunks and stuff like that. That has to do with how far the player is away from a redstone contraption and when it stops working and different entities like mobs and passive mobs, hostile mobs, when they stop actually functioning and when they disappear. So, like I said, at 128 blocks, any mob that's outside of that range basically despawns from the world. So at that range, you can also expect anything that's past 128 blocks to basically stop working and basically stop processing whatever it's doing, unless you have it chunk loaded. So that's the reason why my base is separated by all of this space. So this right here, from this line all the way to over here, is 8 chunks. This line right here, this is the one chunk space. This is just how I measured it in the beginning, and I just kept copying this over, copying the framework over, so I knew visually where the space things at. So I got one chunk of space of empty space to play with. I got the module that represents whatever slice of the base that this actually is, and then I also have 8 chunks to play around and add on to this module. So, and mind you, because it's 128 blocks of space in each direction, nothing should actually slow down my frame rate unless I make whatever I'm making inside this chunk entirely too complicated, which I'm planning on doing anyway, just to stress test and just to do it because I can, because it's fun to do. You know what I'm saying? I like doing complicated redstone like builds, even if it's modded redstone type, logistics builds and stuff like that. That's what I play the game for. I play it for automation. You know what I'm saying? Mostly automation. Even though I like adventure and everything else, and I initially got attracted to the game because of the survival aspect, I like automation. Logistics, Boolean algebra and all of that. Um, yeah, so that's what it basically is for the most part. That's what it basically is. And for the most part, even when I was setting this up and pasting all the different schematics into the world, my frame rate really wasn't dropping. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good. I still have to run this in survival mode because that's when everything turns on. Whatever configurations they had turns on. Um. So I need to get rid of these leaf blocks. These leaf blocks represent how much space that I wanted to separate this framework, the chunk framework, to where the build was actually going to be at. So each one of the builds or 2 blocks up from the framework, and then future plans is to actually all the chain conveyors that I had that was connected. That's all whistling. I gotta tear those down, and then I'm gonna reconstruct a pathway down here, and then a pathway to the actual build. And I have to line it with chain conveyors. But come to find out, there's a mod in here called and I can't see it right now, but it's called Let's change the GUI for a minute to what I had it to. It's called Hypertubes. So if I look at this up, this is all you need for the Hypertubes. So this is a create add-on, create Hypertubes, and it basically gives you like Mario pipes, like from Super Mario Brothers, and you can jump through the pipes and it'll transport you to the next area. You just gotta hook it up to rotation and power. You know what I'm saying? But it's really fast. That's the thing. That's the reason why I'm bringing it up. And I might just use the Hypertubes instead of the chain conveyors, even though I like the chain conveyors, and I still might just set it up because the chain conveyors are gonna be for a future logistics network, basically. It's like a create version of applied in logistics, and I haven't gotten into that yet, and I definitely want to use that. But the Hypertubes I can use to get around the base quickly, because that's gonna be the no, that's gonna be the whistling. You know what I'm saying? Just hook everything up to power, and then have the tubes chunk loaded, and I could chunk load different parts of the base or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Very easily, because you could. This is FTB, so that's the FTB chunks mod, and just go from there. You know what I'm saying? And for the most part, I got a playable base again. You know what I'm saying? So able to go back to what I was doing for the most part. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, uh, one of my personality traits is being determined. I'm extremely determined, extremely persistent, proactive in a lot of different cases, but mostly determined over everything else. I don't care what my hardware is. I don't care what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna get it to work. This is a 2019 MacBook Pro. You know what I'm saying? That I got after I lost my gaming laptop, and I just moved all of my different instances, my multi MC instances, my Curse Force instances, Mod instances. I moved everything, all of that, over onto this MacBook because this is the only computer that I have currently right now. So when I get the money back up, then I'm going to get. I'm going to. I'm probably going to get a mini tower. A mini tower. If I don't get a monitor sometime soon, then I'm going to just replace it when I get the money to actually do that, along with the mini tower or whatever. It's a little bit of a ways off, but and I could transfer everything back to that. But in the meantime, I got the MacBook, so this is what I got to deal with. This is what I got to deal with right now. You know what I'm saying? All these chain conveyors were part of a system in the older base or whatever. That got me from one end of the base to the other. I don't need it to be right here, right now. You know what I'm saying? So I got to redo it. This is the major little workshop area, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And basically that's that. The other thing about the chain conveyors is that there's a block in Create called factory gauges. It's more of like a little item or whatever. But I came to find out recently that it can work across dimensions. So there's no block limit on how far it can go. So I can have something all the way down there that's producing cobblestone or whatever it's doing, and request it from all the way over here, all of these chunks away, and it will still work perfectly fine as long as the area is chunk loaded. So that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad I got this done. It took me about a day. I was dreading having to do this. Uh, so this has been over 2 days. It only really took me, all in all, it took me 30 minutes to do, to copy all the modules from the old base, and it took me about an hour to set all this up because I had to copy the modules and paste them in, and then I had to chunk align everything and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And then as a reference point, I don't really delete any of my old bases. So this is my old base, even my old base from before I did all the work on it and it got all the necessary builds. That's what this represents right here. And then this is my creative testing world. So everything is in there. And if I need a reference for how I wired something up or whatever, I can just come back to this. You know what I'm saying? How color coded the ender chest, even though for the most part I already know. And then I have to come back in here and empty my storage system. I'm probably gonna use since I had to go through this entire process. I don't like cheating stuff in and stuff like that, but I'm gonna use Super Chest to get all my items. Cause super chest, just the basic super chest one holds 4 million items. You know what I'm saying? Of one item type, but it's 4 million items. You know what I'm saying? So all of my ingots, I have 100,000 ingots that can go easily into one super chest. Um, Same thing with all the rest of the items and all the rest of the raw ores and stuff like that that I have. And then for my major storage system, I could dump that into maybe like a storage cell or something like that from AE. I could dump it into a storage cell, and then with that mod, I forgot the name of the mod, but I used it for my other world, so the mod's already in that pack or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But what you essentially do is you put it in there. When you go to your new world, you can enter a command in um, that'll scan any of the worlds that you have inside the instance. So I just come back and scan this world right here, and then wherever my player is standing next to it, it'll scan all the inventories for all the items that's in there. And then when I hit execute, it'll just import all of those chests into this world with all the contents of the chest perfectly intact, including the MBT data and stuff like that. So if you have items that are damaged or partially used or whatever, it'll import all of that as well. So I already tested this out. I used it in my other world, and that's how I was able to transport modified items out of one world into another world, which typically you can't do. You could do it with vanilla items, but it's harder to do it with mod items because all the mods have different code. They don't use the same code as vanilla. Yeah, but that's that. That's the next part of this little project right here is the transport all of my items from this world to this world. And that's really it. And then I could get back to actually playing the game. After I get that done, I could get back to actually playing the game again. You know what I'm saying? The way I want to. You know what I'm saying? And my consolation prize for having to go through this entire process and the game not working the way that it's supposed to work. You know what I'm saying? Even though it is I'm keeping all the super chests. It shouldn't even be that many, but I'm keeping the super chests. I can make them anyway. You know, I got enough because they made out of steel plates and all that. I already have enough steel in my normal world that I already produced to make a couple of super chests. So I can already make them. So it's not even an issue. But yeah, that's my consolation prize for having to do this entire world move or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Again with my second instance and all that. Yeah, and that's what it is, and that's how you save your world. Keep it going, keep it pushing. You know what I'm saying? Because I definitely want to continue because I like the aspect of using Greg Tech with Create. Create is a mod that I just learned it recently, like a couple of months, not even a couple of months, like maybe a month and a half ago. I just learned it. Already making complex builds with it, and I like it because it's closer to actual engineering than any other tech mod that I actually used before. You know what I'm saying? But I like Greg Tech because it's complexity and it's always something. I always like challenges. This is Greg Tech was definitely one of those mods that I was gonna get to eventually. Ever since 1710, you know, so I enjoyed my time playing Greg Tech 4 back then, and I just never went all the way to end game with that. You know what I'm saying? Because there was a lot of being distracted, learning a bunch of different mods, new mods, stuff like that, and everything else. But now I want to get back to actual Greg Tech again, and trying to get to the end game and getting past MV because that's as far as I ever made it was MV, and that's it.